Everybody, how you doing? All right, I'm going to talk about some things, and I want to talk about some things that I've experienced personally. I'm really going to do this. I'm going to talk about world events, but it's going to be more on the spiritual side of things, not like the practical human everyday life stuff. Kind of the unusual is more fun that way. I also have this idea that I want to just tap into some higher wisdom, not by doing a journey into it, just talk and just see what it wants to say without any real reflection, just letting you guys reflect on the meaning. And we just do this. We'll just do this. So I made a little list of things. The first keywords are role model. I literally had this epiphany that was asking me to reflect on how am I a good role model for anybody, whether that's my kids or other people's kids, friends, family. How am I being a good role model for every person that I cross paths with or on YouTube, How am I a reflection of a good role model? And it got me thinking about my life. And when life is really, it's almost like we were put under pressure. It's kind of a survival state. When you're put under pressure, you can lose track of making the good self-loving decisions because the pressure itself makes you feel like you're being crushed under the weight of things that you have no power over. And then it causes you to, spiral into not exercising anymore, or not eating right anymore, not getting out of bed like you used to. It causes you to be attracted to more of those habits that are a reflection of the pressure that you're under. So you can get lost, you can lose yourself in those experiences. And the reason why this "Are you being a good role model" came to me is because it's getting me remembering who I am, or who I always prided myself in being, as somebody who cared about my health, okay? Who cared about, I put more conscious effort and more conscious thought into healthier habits that I'd lost track of, okay? This is important because every decision that we're making, if we're falling into complaining all the time, or we're falling into laziness where we just don't want to we don't want to leave the very basic behaviors that make life so easy from one day to the next. But the thing that's beneath the surface is this silent disappointment, in yourself. This is where the next keyword, my conscience, okay? I was doing a walk yesterday, and I had a part of me was talking to me. And I was trying to decide if this part of me was from the future or the past, or where was this part of me? Because it was me. It was this Abbey. I was like, well, where's this Abbey from? What version of Earth or what version of time is this Abbey from? Is she from the future? And it turned out to be my conscience. And my conscience was reminding me how important it is to listen to your conscience. There's a reason why this story about Pinocchio, because Jiminy Cricket reminds Pinocchio, let your conscience be your guide. Because when you let your conscience be your guide, it's like following your heart, It's kind of nice to think about it because it's more of a mind-based concept where I'm always talking about following your heart, but if you were to follow your head, you would want to follow your good conscience, And if we are to be good representatives for each other, good inspiring each other to bring out the best in each other, we have to maintain a strong, good role model presentation. And I noticed that my conscience had been struggling because of the pressure that I was under. It was breaking me down. Even my good habits was breaking down my conscience. And I needed to rehabilitate that energy so that I could make good self-loving choices. So rehabilitating my conscience is bringing me into balance with myself and the person that I felt like I was, that I kind of lost along the way over so many life changes, so much movement, so many things going on. It feels good when you can realign with that. I swear there's times where we're going to have to go through phases where we lose ourselves. That's the only way to grow. And sometimes it feels like you're never going to get out of it. Things are never going to change. And it could feel like years, and you get so lost that you can't really recover yourself again. And you got to find ways to try, and you got to never stop believing in the power of yourself. And again, the word role model comes back. If you feel like you've lost yourself, let's talk about, let your conscience be your guide, and how are you being a good role model? If you were to have some kids in your imagination that are watching you all day, every day, and learning how to be the best adult they can be by adopting your behaviors, what type of adult are they going to become? And is that going to make you proud of yourself and how you inspire children to become the next generation of incredible adults? We cannot get lazy on this. We can't give up on this. We even have to be good role models for each other, not just for kids, but for adults, for each other. Good role models for teenagers, for 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 40 or 50, 60, 70, 80, and on. Like, we have to be good role models no matter what your age, because we're reminding those who are struggling how to find themselves again, because we have to be strong in what is the right behavior. And we have to also say no when no is necessary. Even if we don't know how to say no, just saying no sometimes is a really good teacher for others that this isn't working for me. Like, how do you teach your dog how to have good manners? You have to help the dog understand that I don't like that behavior. And you have to do it in a strong and respectful way. And it doesn't require suffering. It's just a simple getting your attention. No, I don't like that. No. And then walking away. Human beings need that to help them understand what are the right behaviors or the wrong behaviors too. So I was reflecting on this. It was way cooler than how I'm talking about it. Because I got to do journeys and this stuff was coming up. But the next thing, so I've been reflecting a lot on the world today. Been reflecting a lot on an experience that I had. This was back in like 2015 or 2016, where a future version of myself came and visited me in the middle of the night, and what it was like to experience her. I made a video about it a long time ago, so all my memory is kind of hazy, but I do remember that she was very old and she was very intense. And I felt like she was also very bitter, like she'd been through hell. And I didn't know that it was me at first. I was trying to figure out who she was or where she came from. And she showed me an image of a mirror, and then it was her face and my reflection. Then she showed me a pond, and it was her face in my reflection. And I realized that she was me. And she was wearing the most basic of clothing. I mean, we're talking about like blankets and sheets makeshift into a dress with a rope that's holding it together. And I didn't know what to make of her, but I do remember that the next day when I woke up, she was still there. And she was following me throughout that day, which was like I was just hanging around the house. It was like the weekend, and I was painting and stuff with the kids. And she was looking at all the things we hadn't cleaned up yet, or the laundry that hadn't been done. And she was emotional about it. Like she'd lost everything. Made me kind of feel a little creeped out. Like, what's that mean about the future? And at that time I thought, there's no way the world's just gonna come to a freaking blistering end. There's no way that whatever she represents is actually going to be my future. I don't believe that, Well, she's been coming back around. This memory of her came around, I believe it was in February. It's kind of lingering here in March, because so much is starting to become obvious that, the next level of our the work that we need to do as a human race is becoming quite obvious. We need to find a way through this. Anyway, she had come to me in the middle of the night, and I don't believe everything that anybody tells me in the spirit world, but even myself. What is myself from the future telling me in the spirit room? I don't believe her. Anyway, she had told me that you're going to start finding that everything is going to be erased. So like we could go into a mall and you have all these stores full of all these clothes and shoes and jewelry and makeup, but get your nails done or your hair done, and all this is going to slowly start to be erased. It's going to start to disappear little bit by little bit by little bit till there's nothing left. It's all going to start becoming erased. And it's hard to wrap my head around how that, like, what do you mean exactly it's all going to be erased? Anyway, I was talking to Joe about this, and he did a journey to that future part of myself because I wanted to get his interpretation. I mean, she told me other things. It felt like she had lived on Earth already. She'd already lived. I have felt very strongly that I've already lived this lifetime before. I've lived it multiple times. I don't know how many times I've lived this lifetime, but I keep coming back to relive this lifetime. I'm quite certain that deja vu is you have lived this lifetime before, and you are doing exactly the same exact thing in that moment that you were exactly doing the last time you lived this lifetime. Because this one time I had deja vu, this is what awakening, psychic awakening, this is what awakening actually is like. Where you have an experience that terrifies the living daylights out of you and you can't get out of it for hours, days, weeks, months, because it's not just a thought or an idea. It literally becomes a part of your reality and you become messed up over it. So when I was driving to work, I was in the parking ramp and I saw my hand, like it's like there's the radio, I'm listening to this song at this time and I'm in the parking ramp, this part, as I was going into my job, and everything was lining up so perfectly that it was like I was stuck in this echo of terror. And the greatest overwhelming nightmare came over me, that I was trapped, that I was stuck, that I had done this lifetime exactly the same way. Because for me to be living it detail for detail for detail for detail for detail right now says that I was still working this job at this specific time in my life, and everything is lining up perfectly. I haven't had a deja vu like that for a while, by the way. But that's when that part of my future self came to visit me, I don't know, maybe a month or 2 months or something. It was around the same time. And that's when I started to add it up that I'd lived this lifetime before. And so if she is me from the future's already happened. And we are just catching up with the future of what has already existed, but we are doing it differently this time. So I don't know what the future this time is going to look like, but I had interpreted as I am doing it differently this time than she did it, which means that there's hope for a different outcome. If we can get the right outcome, we don't have to come back to relive this again, because we'll catch up with all our future selves. They can come back to us and we can move on. Because she is still there. She's still there. It was so weird because I'll tell you more about what Joe experienced, but I went and talked to her recently, and she was telling me that it's hard for her because so many things are so different than her original memories. The world has become so different than her original memories, and she was so old that she couldn't tell what was real or not real from her past. That's why she was going to visit past versions of herself to help her to decide what reality actually was at that time, because this isn't reality, as reality is different. So this isn't meant to terrify anybody, because here we are, we're doing it again. We'll just keep doing it again. No wonder everybody's like, how do I get out of the matrix? We get it right this time. Anyway, but she was telling me about Rick and Morty. She was telling me about, I was talking about my conscience, and she said that all of these things is the future is speaking to the past, and it's giving us hints and clues to help us survive what comes next. So when she was showing me Rick and Morty, she can't tell if that was real or not from her memory, because she doesn't have access to it anymore, but it was part of her memory, and she felt like she was Rick because she has so many versions of herself. And that's why she comes back to talk to other versions of herself to help her to figure out what's real and what's not real anymore. That's freaking nuts. That's messed up right there. But she said that there's a reason why Pinocchio was gifted to us, so that we could get these clues. And these are the clues that we need in order to turn these events around. So when I'm telling you to listen to your conscience and let your conscience be your guide, it's a practical thing, but it's a spiritual thing, and it's a solution to this world problem. If we all start to remember how to be like children again, because children want to do the right thing. They all want to make their parents proud. They want to make their teachers proud. They want to have friends. They don't want to be bullied. They don't want to be challenged in that way. They want to enjoy learning. They want to show off their skills, right? And that's a genuine human race right there. That is where we let our conscience be our guide, and we be intuitively good. But we be kind to ourselves too, and remember the power of the role model, and we need to not be lazy on this. All right, so Joe went and visited this future version of her, of myself, and he showed me that she was part of this. So was he. We both. It's almost like we lived a life already, but we were living in a cross section of all Earth realities that are going through this version. Okay, well, I mean, we were basically pulling in information. I don't know how to understand, because I wasn't in that journey. I'm just sort of recalling what he had said and what it meant to me. But we had the power to find solutions. I don't know how many times we've lived this life in order to help the human race, in order to solve this big issue. And we've done it differently, majorly differently in different ways at different times that we've done this. And then we pull all that information into this cross section, but we pull it in every single time. We pull in the impacts, the effects, and we on a soul level start to solve this puzzle. We've been trying to solve this puzzle for hundreds of years now, and we can't figure it out. But the interesting solution and the major message that came for Joe, I know this, you may be wondering what do I make of that, was that we need to stop trying to solve this. And we need to, it's like, what if it's okay if everything dies? What if it's okay to accept loss? Does that mean this is going to go forward in the worst way possible? That's not at all what I'm saying. But maybe our life lesson is learning about what we feel is trying to help or save the human race is in our version of life lesson, something we need to let go of. And what's your version of life lesson with all of this? Is to be part of a solution or not be, or whatever you want to make of it. This has been so hardcore of a life lesson that we created an Earth dimension where we could create a cross section in order to interpret how to solve this world issue. And we can't figure it out. What does that say? We need everybody's help. It can't just be Joe and Abbey. And maybe that's part of the problem too. I believe there's a lot more versions of cross sections of Earth where other souls are trying to solve this issue. Other souls are coming back to relive this again. And maybe souls aren't. And maybe some souls are moving into future versions from this timeline, whereas other souls moved into future version from other timelines that I had existed in. Anyway, it really gets you thinking about reality, you know? Really get into thinking about this narcissistic behavior, because I feel that there's a psychological event taking place here, as there's mirrors. So I look at my reflection in the mirror, but what if so I see into myself, okay? So the human race sees into itself, and the mirrors are lining up, and so right and wrong is becoming confused. What was once wrong is now going to be right, and what was once right is now going to be wrong, and it's all going to be wrong and confusing, because there can only ever be one right way. And that is good conscience. That is being the role model. So that's the way you can be sure that you actually know what is right anymore, is when you define yourself as a good role model, not from a superficial place of your own mind, but by being genuinely caring, by not being lazy about it either, by not just saying things that sound good, but by actually doing some good actions, is some good deeds. Seeing into the eyes of somebody that you impacted that's grateful for what you just did, for what you just said. That's when you know you're being a good role model. So I made this little list because I want to make sure I talked about those things. And I'm going to relax actually and just tune into higher conscious and see what kind of message, just like a conversational message that they would like to share with us. Let's just see what happens. So what would you like to say can impact us today? Come back to yourself. Be present in your body. Be present with your mind. Be present with your heart. Be present with your feelings. Come back to yourself. And this, I'm going to have to say this outside of the message, is I experience a human being who is projected into the TV and projected into the newspaper and projected into their cell phone. And they're so projected out that they're losing themselves in this information outside themselves. And it's time for us now to return to ourselves and take a vacation from all of that. I'm trying to make this just a message without any reflection. But that's part of it. I mean, that's part of what echoed back to me, was seeing all of that in action. So I just wanted to put words to it. All right, let's see what else. Know your heart. Know your true 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 heart. Breathe. Return to yourself. Return to yourself. Peace. Return to yourself in peace. Return to yourself in peace. Return to yourself in peace. Being alive is a gift. To be alive is a gift. Being alive is a gift. Know your true heart. Kindness, compassion. It is Do not defend yourself. Because they keep showing me a human doing this, and they're trying to shield themselves from pain. But there's kindness and compassion out there. Do not shield yourself from kindness and compassion. Do not shield yourself from kindness and compassion, because there's kindness and compassion out there. Then I see the hands move away, and I see an axe come down, and the hands say, why did I do that? Now I'm in pain. Where was kindness and compassion? And I see a tender, loving mother that is grateful that you endured the pain so she would have the purpose of healing you. If you would not have endured that pain, she would not have had that purpose of healing you. Your pain gave her purpose now to heal you. Be grateful that you could be the one to give her purpose. She is grateful for you, grateful for your pain that gave her purpose to heal you. You now to receive kindness and compassion. That's what they want to say. All right. Have an awesome day, everybody. Thanks for watching.